911 at the location of your emergency.
Hey, 306 C, 2 miles drive. My boyfriend's unresponsive. He has some poke wounds inside of himself, and he's late. I put him in the shower to revive him. He's not revivable. Please help me. Please.
Tell me the address. Tell me the address.
What do I do?
Help you.
No, I need my boyfriend.
What happened?
Help. I don't know. I came home. There's so much blood.
Hey friends, it's me, Emma again, and welcome back to my channel where we talk about all things sinister. If you are interested in true crime or if you like all things horror related, make sure you hit that like and subscribe button. That way you can join me for some morbid conversation. Now today's story starts on August 5th, 2018, when Ryan Lamb would return to his apartment to find his boyfriend, Ryan Nixon, bleeding severely. He would end up making a frantic call to 911 in which he would tell them that his boyfriend was unresponsive and he put him in the shower to try to revive him, but nothing was working and he needed help. Now, he would later tell police in interrogation that when he first arrived home, Nixon was responsive and he was able to speak to him despite his injuries. Once help arrived on the scene, Lamb would actually have to be handcuffed and kept away from the apartment because he was inconsolable and erratic. Unfortunately, Lamb did not call 911 immediately as soon as he found his boyfriend. Now, he claimed that he did this because neither of the two men had a working cell phone, and rather than go to his neighbor's apartment and knock on the door, he ended up running to a gas station to use their phone to call 911. And it is likely because of this delay that Nixon would end up dying. Police would end up bringing Lamb back to the police station early that morning to begin his interview and start the process of finding out what exactly happened that night. When Lamb begins to tell the story to the police, he starts by saying that he arrived at the apartment and saw that there was blood, and he had thought that his boyfriend had just injured himself. It wasn't until going further into the apartment that he would see his boyfriend leaning against the wall, bleeding severely from the head with scissors stuck in his stomach. It was also at this point that Lamb had said Nixon was conscious and talking to him, telling him that he was fine. After about 2 hours of being in the interrogation with police would notice on Lamb's chest some markings that were noteworthy. And they would notice these markings because Lamb was wearing a button-up shirt, but it was unbuttoned on the top. And these markings were very unique in the fact that they were very uniformly spaced. In fact, they were so uniformly spaced that they looked like puncture wounds that would be made by the evenly spaced tines on a fork. This is what the officers would bring up during the interview, and after a little back and forth, Lamb would say that it was from a sexual act that he and Nixon participated in earlier. Detective Wardensky would end up going back to the apartment complex to talk to neighbors to see if there was anybody who had seen or heard anything that could be related to what actually happened. And they would end up talking to a neighbor who would shed some more light on the tine marks that were on Lamb's chest. And this neighbor said that they had overheard shouting that night. And specifically, what they had heard was someone shout the phrase, "You stabbed me in the chest," followed by, "Well, you stabbed me with a fork." By this point, police obviously didn't have a lot of faith in the story that Lamb had returned to the apartment and found Nixon bleeding profusely on the floor with no explanation. And after about 9 hours in the police station, Lamb would end up admitting to police that he and Nixon were having sex earlier and that he had used scissors on Nixon, but he did not intend to kill him. However, after Lamb was charged with felony deliberate homicide, he and his defensive team would end up switching from this being a sexual act to this being self-defense. And they would begin to say that Nixon was an abusive partner. The jury was shown several pieces of recorded conversations with the officers, including seeing Lamb change his story multiple times, starting first with saying that he came home to his injured boyfriend, then to saying that an ex-boyfriend had attacked Nixon, before changing it to the sex story where they were using forks and scissors on each other in what they thought was a safe way. The defense team would say that this confession was coerced. After 9 days of trial, it would result in a hung jury. Ultimately, both parties would end up coming to a mutual agreement in December of 2019, and this agreement would end up with Lamb submitting an Alford plea. Now, if you do not know what an Alford plea is, that is when the defendant maintains their innocence, but understands that there is enough evidence against them that if they were to go to trial, it is likely that they will be found guilty. So, in trade for pleading guilty, the Alford plea, while maintaining their innocence, they will plead guilty to a lesser charge. And in this case, he pled guilty so that he could get the lesser charge of negligent manslaughter. So in this scenario, Lamb understood if he went to trial, it was likely that he would be found guilty. And if he was found guilty, he would be found guilty of felony deliberate homicide. So rather than go to trial and be found guilty of felony deliberate homicide, he chooses to bypass the trial, plead guilty now using the Alford plea, and accept the charge of negligent manslaughter, which is obviously a smaller charge. And he does this while maintaining his innocence. So he gets the lesser charge and they save money on not going to trial. On February 12th, 2020, Ryan Lamb would end up sitting through several family and friend victim impact statements made by the friends and family of Ryan Nixon. And after sitting through those impact statements, he would hear his sentence from the judge, which would ultimately end up being 10 years in prison and over 10 grand in restitutions ordered to be paid to both Nixon's surviving family as well as to the system. And that is where he is currently. He is currently serving his time in prison right now. Anyway, what caught my interest the most about this case is I heard the 911 call first. And when I heard the 911 call, I knew nothing about the case. I started with the 911 call. And on the phone, and I will insert the 911 call, he genuinely sounds distraught. He genuinely sounds so upset, like somebody he loves is dead or dying, and he sounds shook. When you see the video of the police there at the apartment with him, he seems distraught. He seems so shook. And then when he's at the police station talking to the police officers, and when they tell them that they are charging him with homicide, he seems so surprised and so caught off guard that this is happening. But then when you dig a little deeper and you find out that he's changed his story and changed his story and changed his story, and then when you find out that he supposedly walks in on his boyfriend bleeding to death, and he's trying to revive him, and he puts him in the shower to try to revive him, and nothing is working, and it is an emergency, and he needs to call 911. But rather than bang on his neighbor's door, he runs to the gas station to call 911. it doesn't add up. And to me, it seems as though it wasn't accidental. It seems as though it was intentional. It seems as though he was genuine in his actions, wanting to severely hurt or kill his boyfriend. That's just my opinion based off of what I know, and then based off of what he was charged of and found guilty for, and what he ended up coming out in court. I genuinely feel like he stabbed his boyfriend with the purpose of hurting or killing him. And if he didn't, his story wouldn't have changed so much, and he would have gotten help immediately. He would have banged on neighbors' doors until somebody came to the door rather than running to the gas station. But that's just my opinion. Let me know what you think, because I'm interested to see what you think. And also, these scissors that he killed this poor guy with are like, not that I want to die from being stabbed by scissors, but good God, he couldn't have picked a worse pair of scissors to kill somebody with. Like, it's just awful. Horrible. Just a raggedy set of like hair trimming scissors. Anyway, leave your commentary down below. Let me know what you think. I know I said recently that I took a break and that I was going to try to post regularly, and then I disappeared off the face of the earth. But I've had a few things come up. One of my kids just had a birthday, and we've been planning parties, and then I've dealt with sickness in the home, and it's just, I don't know. It's just we've been trying to soak up the last little bit of summer, which means I'm out of my house and away from my laptop to do research, and I'm making excuses that you guys don't care about. But that's what it is. And I don't want to make any promises that I'm going to be back to regular, because the last time I did that, I disappeared for like ever. So I'll just say, I'll see you when I see ya. And until then, like I always say, my friends, take care, stay safe, and I'll talk to you later, all right? Bye.